Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. In any democracy, there's a simple, powerful idea. No one is above the law. But what happens when the person being investigated is one of the most powerful officials in the country? A president? A prime minister? A cabinet member? This is where the abstract ideals of democracy meet the messy reality of power. Today, we're diving into the complex and often dramatic world of investigating the powerful, looking at the systems designed to ensure accountability, and the iconic scandals that tested those systems to their very limits. The entire structure of modern democracy is built on a concept popularized by the philosopher Montesquieu, the separation of powers. The idea is to divide government into three branches: the legislative, which makes laws, the executive, which carries them out, and the judicial, which interprets them. This isn't about creating neat, separate boxes. It's about creating a system of checks and balances, where each branch can limit the power of the others. The legislature can impeach a president, the president can veto a law, and the courts can declare a law unconstitutional. This intricate web is designed not for government convenience, but to protect the liberty of the people. And nowhere is this system more critical than when it's turned inward, to investigate the government itself. Let's start with the United States, where this process has played out in some of history's most memorable political dramas. The U.S. Congress has a potent, if not explicitly stated, power to investigate. This authority comes from the necessary and proper clause of the Constitution. How can you write good laws if you can't investigate the problems they're meant to solve? This power has been used since 1792, but it came into the global spotlight in the 1970s with a scandal that would redefine the presidency: Watergate. It all began in June 1972 with a seemingly minor break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in the Watergate office complex. But the investigative reporting of Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein of The Washington Post, guided by a secret FBI source known as Deep Throat, slowly revealed a massive conspiracy of political sabotage orchestrated by President Richard Nixon's White House. The investigation became a three-pronged attack. The media kept the story in the public eye, the FBI investigated the crime, and the Senate Watergate Committee held televised hearings that captivated the nation. In May 1973, 71% of Americans tuned in to watch as the inner workings of the Nixon administration's cover-up were laid bare. The critical moment came with the bombshell revelation that Nixon had a secret taping system in the Oval Office. The battle for those tapes led to a constitutional crisis. Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox subpoenaed the recordings, and in response, Nixon ordered his firing in what became known as the Saturday Night Massacre. This act of defiance backfired, only making Nixon look more guilty. The Supreme Court ultimately ruled unanimously that the president had to turn over the tapes. One recording, the smoking gun tape from June 23, 1972, proved Nixon's direct involvement in the cover-up just days after the break-in. Facing certain impeachment and removal from office, Richard Nixon resigned on August 9, 1974. Watergate had a profound impact. It led to the conviction of 48 administration officials, new campaign finance laws, and a strengthened Freedom of Information Act. But it also left a deep scar of public cynicism towards government that lingers to this day. A decade later, another scandal rocked the White House, the Iran-Contra affair during the Reagan administration. This was a complex, two-part secret operation. First, the U.S. secretly sold arms to Iran, an enemy nation under an arms embargo, in a desperate attempt to free American hostages in Lebanon. Second, the profits from these illegal arms sales were secretly funneled to fund the Contras, a right-wing rebel group in Nicaragua, in direct violation of a congressional ban. When the story broke in 1986, it exposed what many called a secret government operating outside the law. Televised congressional hearings featured the defiant testimony of National Security Council staffer Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, who became a controversial public figure. The investigation was hampered by the shredding of crucial documents, but it ultimately revealed a shadow foreign policy run from within the White House. 14 administration officials were indicted, though some convictions were later overturned, and President George H.W. Bush pardoned 6 others in 1992. Like Watergate, Iran-Contra further damaged public trust in the presidency. Then came the 1990s and the Whitewater controversy, a scandal that dogged President Bill Clinton. This began as an investigation into a failed real estate deal the Clintons were involved in back in the 1970s. But under the direction of a new type of investigator, the independent counsel Kenneth Starr, the inquiry expanded dramatically. The independent counsel was a product of Watergate, designed to be free from executive branch control. However, the Whitewater investigation became intensely partisan, and critics accused Starr of overreaching, turning a financial inquiry into a sprawling probe of the president's life. The Whitewater investigation itself never resulted in charges against the Clintons, but its most significant consequence was uncovering President Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky, which led to his impeachment by the House of Representatives for perjury and obstruction of justice. Though he was acquitted by the Senate, the scandal fueled the intense partisan polarization that defines much of modern American politics and led to the end of the independent counsel law, which many saw as too powerful and politically vulnerable. But this challenge isn't unique to the United States. Across the globe, democracies have developed their own tools for accountability. In the United Kingdom's parliamentary system, a major scandal in the 1990s known as Cash for Questions revealed that 2 MPs had accepted bribes to ask questions in Parliament on behalf of a businessman. This led to major reforms, including the creation of the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, an independent officer who investigates misconduct by members of parliament. In Germany in the 1980s, the Flick affair exposed a massive system of illegal payments from the Flick conglomerate to major political parties to secure a tax exemption. A parliamentary committee investigated, and while it didn't lead to bribery convictions, it blew the lid off illicit party financing and led to major reforms, shaking public trust in the political establishment. France has a unique solution. A special court just for trying government ministers, the Cour de Justice de la République, composed of both judges and members of parliament. It has handled complex cases like the Karachi affair, a long-running scandal involving alleged kickbacks from a submarine sale to Pakistan in the 1990s, with funds supposedly funneled back to finance a French presidential campaign. More recently, South Korea has taken an aggressive approach. In 2016, a massive scandal erupted around President Park Geun-hye. It was revealed she had allowed a close personal friend with no official position to wield enormous influence over state affairs and enrich herself. The scandal triggered enormous public protests, with millions taking to the streets. The National Assembly impeached Park, and the Constitutional Court unanimously upheld the decision, removing her from office. She was later sentenced to a long prison term, a stunning demonstration of the power of public pressure and independent courts. Perhaps one of the largest anti-corruption investigations in history is Brazil's Operation Car Wash. What started in 2014 as a routine money laundering investigation at a gas station exploded into a massive probe of the state-owned oil company Petrobras. It uncovered a systemic scheme of bribes and kickbacks that implicated hundreds of high-ranking politicians and top executives. The operation led to the imprisonment of numerous powerful figures, including former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. For a time, the investigators were national heroes. However, the operation became mired in controversy, with leaked messages suggesting the lead judge and prosecutors were coordinating to strategically target political opponents, tarnishing the legacy of the investigation and leading to some convictions being overturned. So, what can we learn from all these cases? 3 enduring challenges stand out. First is the specter of political motivation. In a polarized environment, any investigation into a powerful figure will be accused by their allies of being a political witch hunt. Second is the double-edged sword of the media. Investigative journalism, as in Watergate, can be a powerful force for good. But the 24-hour news cycle can also lead to sensationalism that obscures the facts. And finally, these high-profile investigations inevitably impact public trust. While they can reinforce the rule of law, they can also paralyze governments and deepen public cynicism, especially if they are seen as partisan or unfair. Investigating the powerful is a messy, imperfect, and essential process. It is the ultimate test of a democracy's commitment to accountability. There is no single perfect model, but these stories show that the task requires strong institutions, a free press, and a public that demands integrity. Holding power to account is not a single event, but an unending vigil, and it's in this ongoing struggle that the true character of a democracy is revealed.